Hey, we got a 1998 Jeep TJ Wrangler, same thing for the wiper motor. And this one I knew was bad. He said sometimes it would come on, sometimes it wouldn't. It hadn't came on for a long time. Played with the wiper to get some ice off the windshield, and all of a sudden it turned on, but only worked for a little while, then stopped again. I had the key in the ignition, turned on with this cover off, and gave it a tap, and it started working again, just like if you tap a starter. So I was like, all right, that motor's definitely on its way out. So we're going right to replacing the motor. Here's our replacement. Looks a little different, same application. What I hate is they didn't give us the wiring harness. I mean, it's still 5 wires, same color. We just gotta wire it in. Stupid, but whatever. All right, to take this cover off, it's super easy. Phillips head screws. Right here on the left and right side, you got a screw going in right there. So you got to peel back your weather stripping just a little bit to get to that screw. Then you got the 3 screws up top. I think it was 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them. And you've got one in the middle. You got to take your wiper blades off. That's pretty easy. There's my wiper blades. Here's an inside view. Those little teeth, those splines. Sometimes these freeze up and you gotta use a screwdriver. You pry over, see? Right there, the wiper blade can't come off because it's got this peg. You gotta press this over, and I can't do it with my hands. That's how stiff it is. Work it back and forth with some PB Blaster or something, get her moving again. But yeah, you slide this clip over, got a little tab, and that opens it up for the wiper to come off, and they still don't like to come off. I like to wiggle them like that. I even got a wiper remover tool which clamps around this and pulls up. Didn't have to use that, just had to get the vibrations going, and it came off. A little bit of spray works too. All right, let's get down to replacing the motor. We're gonna take the whole regulator out. So that's gonna be this. It's held in with 3 bolts, 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter over there. So we're gonna start off with removing those 3, and then we'll get back to it. All right, regulator's out, piece of cake. We got 3 10 millimeter bolts here. Looks like these have some Loctite on them. That's why they're coming out stiff. This one's coming out easy. That's a 13 mil, that's a 10 mil. So what I did first was get this loosened. Our motor will not move anywhere. There we go. I got it upside down from where you would usually be looking at it. So our motor will not move at all. And got that loose. Now you can see this arm's in the way of that 10 millimeter. But as we come up with this nut, then we can kind of get to it. So the motor, I'm pretty sure has splines in it. So they don't always come out this easily, the nut. Sometimes some heat is needed or some vibrations. This one is coming out real easy, just like that. Nuts off. And we got to note the position of the motor as compared to this little doohickey, this regulator. All right, there we go. Regulator's disconnected from the motor. Now take the motor off the plate. So we're just gonna bust the ratchet out, get those 3 zipped off, and then attach our motor, our new motor, on with those 3 bolts. Here we are with the new motor attached. So I just bolted the windshield wiper motor on, and then set this square, that's a square-sided slot in there, and it fits. Let's see this old motor. It only fits one way on there. You'll see that the threads are flattened down on one side. Sorry, my flashlight in the way. There we go, they're flattened down right there. See if I can point at them right there. Boom, you can really see it. And then they're flattened again down at the bottom where the nut squeezes tight. So We got it in the same position, the arm, where it was coming back in the pain kind of spot where you have to use a wrench to get to it. We got it in the same position. We got it started on there in the flat spot. I had to use a screwdriver and hammer to give it a couple taps to get past the threads. Wasn't wanting to go on there. I got it on there where it was all lined up, and I'm like, oh, it's not going down. So kept it in that position, gave it a couple taps, and then it started going down. And before you put it all the way down in its grooves where it goes, see those flat spots? That's where this arm goes. You want to start that nut on there. This is pretty simple, just giving you a breakdown of everything. So then, once we got the nut started, then we can tighten that nut down. And make sure that that arm is going to be going through the slots on the shaft of the window wiper motor. All right. Let's get this bolt or this nut tightened. And then once this is tight, we can throw her back in there and worry about exchanging our wiring harness. Got lots of length here. You can put your rubber boot back on. It's always a good idea. Yeah, we could throw that on. And I'm gonna end up snipping these wires and connecting them with some wire connectors so we can just plug in instead of snipping it at the wire connectors there and just connecting them. It'll have a disconnect. So we'll chop the wires off right about here and wire them both together and wrap it up with electrical tape. All right, we're all wired up. Connectors connected. There's this little red clip here. You got to push it out to disconnect the clip. Press it out, and then you press down. So now we're going to lock it in. Boom, it's locked in. They didn't show taking that off. And before we throw everything back together, wrap our wires up with electrical tape, and put this cover back on. We're just going to slap that cover on, put the screws back in. Easy peasy. You might have to raise the hood or lower it a little bit to squeeze it in. But before we do anything, we're going to make sure the wipers work. Key in. Wipers. I have the key all the way on. There we go. All right, we got ourselves a bad wiper motor right out of the box. Exchanged it for another one, and this one actually has a wiring harness on it and doesn't have this plate here. This one looks exactly the same, whereas the other one wanted you to snip and whatnot. So that's weird. It was bad right out of the box. So now it's time to, so I took it apart again. Now it's time to install the new one. Well, let's go, round two. All right, we got her all done and put back together. Now, the wiper blades were kind of tough to adjust, figure out where I want them. That one's a little higher than that one. There is play. There's play in the transmission, the linkage. So, I mean, what you gonna do besides replace that? And so, you know, I popped it off, pop it back on a few times to kind of adjust lower and higher. Not much play on this side. That's the side with a lot of play. I'd like to bring it down lower, but if I do, as you're wiping, it goes over this. See, this has a lot of play in it. So, I mean, I can set it there and it looks good, but as soon as you use the wipers, it's gonna stop and rest there. If I put it one notch lower, then it tonks on this. I don't want it to hit on the weather stripping. I mean, it is what it is, you know. Replace the linkage if you're picky, for sure. Or inspect some of them are replaceable. The little plastic sleeves that go in the ball. I've found them before and replaced them on other ones. But this one, it's done. Everything works again, so we did get a bad motor. It happens. Doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while you get a bad something right out of the box. It's all done. Thanks for watching.